morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Vaughn Lane. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get the questions in. We're going to get to all of those questions here in just a little bit. We're also 72 days away. Rob Enfield makes it easy for me to remember each and every morning. Appreciate that. So tell us who your favorite number 72 is. There's a lot of good ones to choose from this morning. And, of course, people already weighing in over on TexasFootball.com as well. But tell us that. And, guys, I wanted to actually open this morning talking about tight ends.
Okay. Yeah. So Jason McIndoe and Jeff Banks posted on Twitter that they took the tight ends to Terry Black's barbecue, which I wish I'd have been invited. Come on, what's up, guys? I think I'm going to stop by there Saturday when I'm in town. But yeah, there you can see Nick Townsend over on the left, Spencer Shannon, all the tight ends, Jordan Washington. As you scroll down the list, Emery Winston and all the tight ends there at Texas with the Terry Black's barbecue. So if anybody saw a bunch of tall guys, they're familiar faces at Terry Black's yesterday.
Whoa,
that's a lot. That's a lot. That's the meat sweats right out of the gate on this show. If you make that whole plate, that's meat sweats.
You know what it looks like to me? That looks like a nap. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I do that, I'm going home and taking a nap. That's good stuff. Number 72, a lot of good number 72s back in the day for the University of Texas, but the current one, Nato Umeozulu. Yep. Or Umeozulu, I think is the proper pronunciation. They're very difficult for me. The reality of it is he's going to be a first-year starter on an offensive line that's going to have three new starters and a fourth one that's moving positions into a starting role in Cole Hudson. The Texas offensive line in 2025 going to have to step up. Nato Umeozulu is one of those guys at left guard for the Longhorns. So good luck to him and the former 72s along the way. What was one of them? Tim Samuels over at Texas City was talking about Don Talbert back in the day. The Talbert brothers, of course, longtime Longhorns. So there you go.
I knew that. I knew the Tech tight ends tweet would get the best barbecue going in the chat. Taste of Austin. What's Mike White's favorite?
Oh, Bob's Chop House. Yeah. But I don't know about his favorite barbecue place.
Yeah. So Neto, big season for him. Look, this is where I think the recruiting and the player development kind of all melds together, and this is where you see it with guys like Neto, who's waited his turn. And this is a huge year for him. It's a very big year for him. I mean, he's patiently waited. You know, he was recruited into the portal. People tried to recruit him in, saying you can come start for us.
Come out twice. He was recruited. Don't forget that, Jerry. I mean, a year ago, this. So that's.
So this is where your player development. These guys that get opportunities. And Texas needs him to take advantage of his opportunity. He's a big part of this offensive line and this team this year because I think he can really elevate the inside run game with his power and his aggression and his attitude. So it's a big opportunity for him. He's a very talented player. He's built up his frame quite a bit. I was looking at a picture the other day I had from the Under Armour game his senior year versus now, and it's unbelievable the difference with him. But now it's time for him to make the most of that opportunity. And if he does, if he comes through Texas offensive line, I think it's going to be really good in the run game from guard, center guard.
All right, well, we're going to talk recruiting here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, let's go ahead and jump into it and tell everyone about Vaughn Lane.
Yeah, absolutely. When you need to travel between major cities in Texas, you were once stuck with just two flawed options: fly and roll the dice with airport delays, security lines, and packed terminals, just to spend 45 minutes in the air, or drive and lose 5 hours to traffic, construction, fatigue, arriving stressed and worn out, or choose this third way, Vaughn Lane. You arrive at a high-end hotel terminal, no airport chaos, no parking nightmares, no stress, Just a few easy steps, and you're boarding in minutes. And what a seat it is, spacious, reclining, wrapped in leather with personal power outlets, fast Wi-Fi, and onboard attendants offering complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, full meal service while you relax or work. The Von Lane operations team is behind the scenes monitoring real-time traffic and adjusting routes to keep you moving efficiently, getting you to your destination rested and on schedule. Von Lane proudly serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio. Even have some routes like going through the Woodlands in Houston, Plano as well. Visit vonlane.com and use promo code OTF25. That's vonlane.com. Use promo code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. It's going to be perfect for you guys coming in, by the way, from Houston, Dallas, and points in between for football games this fall. So keep that in mind as well as you look forward to it. Again, vonlane.com.
All right, well, let's talk a little recruiting this morning. And, Jerry, there's been a lot of the sky is falling as of late, it seems like.
It's mid-June. It's mid-June, so that time.
So we actually went back and looked at last year's recruiting class versus this year's recruiting class as of today, June 19th. And I'm going to put this up here for you and let you kind of just take it away here.
Yeah, so this time last year, and Matt made a great graphic. I actually didn't know he was going to do this. This is actually really cool. Texas had KJ Lacey, Emery Winston, Lance Jackson, Ricky Stewart, Elijah Bo Barnes, Jackson Christian, Devin and Jordan Coleman, James Simon, Caleb Chester. This time a year ago, 6/19, before Big Visit Weekend on the 20th, which is tomorrow through Sunday. This year, obviously, a couple of 5 stars. Diabell doing very well, Elite 11, by the way, for those that like the on-air competition. I'm not the biggest fan, but it has its purpose. Diabell, Jermaine Bishop, obviously some people have him ranked as a 5-star. Dylan Berryman, Chris Stewart, Corey Wells, Max Wright, Hayward Howard, Nicholas Robertson, Cohen Brown, Yaheem Riley, and the 3 specialists. By the way, Jake Collette is going to join us on Coffee and Football tomorrow about 8:40. So you'll learn a little bit about the kicker commit out of the Atlanta area tomorrow. So look, Texas is they're in a good spot right now. And we've said before, you're not going to get everybody. It's big boy recruiting. You're going to lose some battles. You're going to lose some battles. People you don't want to lose battles to. But this visit weekend coming up is big. We have a decision on deck today. That's Dre Quinn out of Buford, the edge, who transferred from Norcross, Georgia's Greater Atlanta Christian, just a short move over to Buford. I think last night, early on in the week, I was leaning more Texas. I think last night I'm leaning more Clemson. And we'll see where he announces today. But I think I think Clemson's really going after you can be an impact player year one here. And at Texas, it's tough to say that. And I think that could be a bit difference maker in this recruitment. We'll see which way it goes. Malachi Lee announces on the 27th. We have Xavier Crowell on the 26th. Before that, we have Vodney Cleveland on Saturday coming up the 21st. I think Texas remains in a good spot there with Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia in the mix. And so we have Xavier Crowell on the 26th, which Texas is battling for ahead of his Alabama OV. We have Malachi Lee on the 27th. If Texas can survive the Michigan OV this weekend, I think Texas has a real shot at Malachi Lee out of Hawaii at offensive tackle. You have Xavier Griffin on the 29th, which that recruitment has been trending Texas. We'll see where that ends up with the news of Tyler Atkins visiting. I personally do not believe they'll go to the same school. So we'll see what happens there. Things can change, but that's my stance on that as of right now. But a lot of decisions coming up. Huge official visit weekend coming up.
Hey, Jerry, one thing I would say is what's interesting is Texas. Put that graphic back up real quick. I'm going to comment on this. 13 commitments right now for Texas this time. Yep. Same day, Juneteenth, by the way. I'm going to remember that here today. But 13 commitments for Texas right now in the class of 26. Same day last year, 10. Okay. But if you take out the punter, the kicker, and the deep snapper, it's really 10 positional players.
Correct.
10 positional players. And that class on the left, as a reminder, ended up being ranked in the country, Jerry?
It ended up being ranked number 1.
Yeah. So just chill out. This is what we're talking about a little bit. You got to have the stomach for it because Jerry says gird your loins. You also just need to have the stomach. I mean, take some ginger ale every so often, throw it back, that kind of thing. I think that this is part of the fun of recruiting for me is finding out where all the dominoes fall because there's so many, and Jerry and I talk about it, it's like following a soap opera almost. There's so many different permutations a recruiting class can, end up being, and you just never know. And all of a sudden, a Tyler Atkins starts visiting. What does that do to Xavier Griffin, and vice versa? What does Xavier Griffin do to Tyler Atkinson? There's a number of different things at play here, and we're here to just try to watch it all transpire and follow it. Dre Quinn, Jerry mentioned, expected to announce today. We believe that's going to be Clemson, at least as of yesterday afternoon. Is that correct, Jerry?
When I went to bed last night, but this stuff changes by the hour. But
yeah.
we'll check again after the show. But I expect an early afternoon announcement.
Yeah.
Drew Lockhart, are Quinn and Xavier Griffin very similar? I think they're not. For that question, Xavier Griffin's 6'3.5", closing on 6'4", 202, 203 pounds. He is a linebacker. He is a linebacker frame guy who's a tremendous linebacker who can rush off the edge. Dre Quinn is a 6'3", 225, 230 pound, 6'3.5", 225, 230 pound guy. It's going to be 260, 265 in time. And I think he's a really, really talented prospect. So, that's where I come out on that. I think Xavier Griffin, everybody wants to kind of, for whatever reason, pigeonhole him as an edge player. I don't think he's should be pigeonholed as an edge player. I think he is a tremendous pass rusher that plays linebacker that's got a lot of physical development out in front of him.
I'm a big fan of Xavier Griffin. Just putting that out there. Big fan.
Do we have the graphic for OVs for this weekend, Blake?
Yes, sir. I do have it. Bear with me. There you go.
All right, so I'll roll through this real quick while we're on it, and then you guys ask your questions. We'll start them. Diabell, obviously 5-star. Caden Finley, son of Jermichael Finley. I think Texas is doing pretty well there. Chris Stewart, Texas commitment, visited Tennessee last weekend. Obviously, his father's on the chat, says he's great with Texas. Caden Prothrow, tight end out of Bowden, Georgia, down by Manchester, where Justice Terry's from, closer to the Alabama border. He's considered a Georgia lean over Florida headed into the visit. Kiwi Brown, we've been through that. We're gonna have more fun with him this weekend than anybody because his father's former UFC fighter Travis Brown, and his stepmom is Ronda Rousey. Nicholas Robertson, Max Wright committed. John Turntine coming in. Look, this Turntine's interesting because one source says, it's A&M made a run and it's A&M versus Texas. Another source says they actually think it could come down to Texas, Michigan. We'll see which one ends up being right on that one. Jermaine Bishop obviously committed, one of the top athletes in the country, probably maybe leaning to play more wide receiver. James Johnson, out of the 4-star D lineman out of he's at Miami Northwestern, but he's originally from Fort Myers, North Fort Myers High, just transferred to Northwestern in the spring. He's interesting because a lot of people have him pegged for Miami, and maybe he ends up at Miami. Somebody told me yesterday, Georgia and Texas, maybe out in front. He's visiting on his birthday weekend. Kendall Gerville out of Fort Myers, great. I think he'd be a great fit at Texas. I'm a big fan of the kid and the fit. I think Texas leads Georgia, Florida. And that one headed into the visit, but that's not done. Valdon Sohn is no longer visiting. He's going to Georgia. He'll come in likely during the season. Luke Wafel will not visit now. I confirmed that this morning. I think he'll go to Ohio State over USC. USC almost thought they had him. Richard Wesley coming in, one of the top edges in the country. Trenton Henderson is talented as anybody on the board for Texas. This will be 2 visits in 2 weeks, by the way, with Trenton Henderson. I mean, Texas is all in there. We'll see if they can upset Florida and Auburn. Kosi Okpala, Calvin Thomas, 2 linebackers. Really long, athletic, rangy guys coming in. Tyler Atkinson, obviously, down there below as well. I think great linebacker prospect there. Paris Melvin, the defensive back out of Cy Springs, is coming in this weekend. Texas bumped A&M, which tells you how much he likes Texas. He's coming in this weekend. Ole Miss, Baylor, a couple of others involved. Chase Calicut, safety hybrid linebacker coming in this weekend. That's Texas, Georgia, Michigan. So it's a huge visit weekend. I mean, when you think about this, Diabell 5-star, Caden Prothro's on the kind of on the edge with some people's rankings. John Turntine, we have him as a 5-star. Jermaine Bishop, some people as a 5-star. James Johnson, Kendall Graville, like top 100 guys in the country. Richard Wesley, some people as a 5-star. Trenton Henderson, I think, is a top 10 prospect in America. I was by his spring game, and he's an absolute stud. Tyler Atkinson's a 5-star. It's a heavy, talented weekend coming up for Texas after 2 big weekends before. Some people have asked about edge. I still think Texas is in a good spot for Jamarian Carlton as well.
Jerry, Chase Calcutt, we had neglected to mention him yesterday on one of our videos. Want to make sure we put it out there. The young man from Houston North Shore said he's announcing the 26th or 27th, I believe, Jerry, if that's accurate. And that will be between Texas, Georgia, and Michigan, I believe, are the 3 finals there. So good luck to him. He's making his official visit to Austin this weekend.
All right, and going back to that list for a second, Larry Boone wants to know, are there any must-haves on this list?
Well, I've said the must-have is committed, and that's Diabell. Now maybe it's Trenton Henderson for me. Now that he's officially visiting, but look, the pass rushers, the elite edge guys, are such a premium. It's such a premium. And I'm just here to tell you, when I saw Trenton Henderson in person, I walked away thinking if he's not a top 10 prospect in the country in this class, I'd be a little surprised.
Jerry called me after going to see Trenton Henderson. He goes, I don't think he's going to Texas. This was, what was it, 3 months ago now, Jerry? Yeah. I don't think he's going to Texas, but I think I just saw a top 5 pick. That's what you said. That was the quote. So it doesn't mean other guys aren't really good. I mean, look, Texas, we feel might be surging a little bit for Malachi Lee right now. He's not even visiting. He visited last weekend. Young man out of Hawaii. So there are a bunch of guys. John Turntine has been on the list forever. Out of North Crawley, another offensive lineman in that regard. It's very interesting, in my opinion, at least, from this standpoint. If you get the quarterback, what we're learning, frankly, is if you get the quarterback in the boat, the other positions can and will be filled. I just think that, to my biggest point on all this, I don't think there's a must-have left. But what I will say is, this is what's going to separate Texas from other big-time schools. Absolutely. It will. If you get a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick, you get 2 or 3 of those guys in the top first round in the next 30 years or next 15 or so commitments. That's what it's all about, dude. Because they're not recruiting. No matter what, Texas isn't going to end up with a dud class. It's going to be a really, really good class. The question is, do they add the disruptors, the playmakers, etc.?
Yeah, no, I look, Texas is recruiting. This is the level you want to recruit at. You're in all these battles with all the right schools, and you just got to, road's kind of winding, but we'll get it there. Vivek B asked a good question. Is Trenton Henderson better than Colin Simmons? Nobody has Colin Simmons BGO, right? I mean, Colin Simmons as a pass rusher is really, 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 really special. Trenton Henderson, though, is going to be a guy who's 6'4.5", 260, 255, 260, who is going to be able to play, run, rush passer. I mean, he is a big frame guy. I think he is a tremendous prospect. I think he's going to be a complete 3-down edge prospect. I think he's big time guy, very much. And there's a reason Texas has fought so hard to get him on campus. I mean, look, if you look at the edge board and all the guys on there, they didn't throw up their hands. They kept recruiting Trenton Henderson. That tells you how good he is. Because when I was through there in May, he told me, he was like, yeah, I don't have a visit set up to Texas. And I came back and said on TexasFootball.com, I said, look, I don't know if he's going to visit. He says he has nothing, because I've been hearing behind the scenes that maybe something was going to happen there. And then when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, I don't have anything set up. I got all these other visits set already. I talked to somebody on the coaching staff. They said he was really open in the process But they said, there were a lot of schools have been recruiting him a long time. So Texas has not been recruiting him a long time. So is that similar to a Justice Terry? We'll see at the end of the day. Texas has some ground to make up. He was at Florida last week, but the edge board's really, really good. But that tells you how good Trenton Henderson is. Texas stayed on him, even with all the other talented edges, on the board. LL asked,
let me ask you this: Is it Simmons categorized more as a pass rusher / ball chaser? Just a speed guy. Not saying that's all Colin Simmons is. And Henderson's a little bit more of that 5/7 technique guy that could play the run very well, but also has a really good ball to get off to. Is that that's a comparison? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're a little bit different physically.
Yeah.
And talent, not talent, but type.
Yeah.
Talent may be very similar, actually, is what Jerry's saying. Type may be different.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this one real quick because this one comes a lot. Are some teams viewing Turntine as an inside offensive line? I can't speak for what every team views him as, but I'll just leave y'all with this. He's y'all. If y'all heard Tony Hills yesterday, he's an elite athlete. He's got an 80+ inch wingspan. He's got 34-inch arms. He's got tackle measurables outside of his height. Just remember that. He can play. That guy can play anywhere, but he's got tackle. Remember, we're 2 months removed from Kelvin Banks being a guard in the NFL, and we're 4 years removed from somebody that is not very bright in the Texas market saying Kelvin Banks was going to be a guard in college. And he was literally started at left tackle game 1 and won the Lombardi Award. So just something to remember.
We got a super chat this morning from Daniel that I want to get to before we move on. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. And I got to find it because it came in a little crazy. Here we go. Daniel says, do the NIL deals with corporate sponsors and players or that corporate sponsors sign individually, such as Arch with Gatorade, does that money count against the allocated money?
Question.
No. Individual deals that are signed with third parties do not count against the cap. So Gatorade, Red Bull, what else do you do? You do Uber or Waymo or something like that. Viore. I mean, Arch has got them all lining up right now. The reality of it is that anything like that does not count against the cap. What they're looking into now, and I want to say this, is whether or not certain third-party affiliated deals will be counted against the cap. Because if it's an overly aggressive Learfield or Playfly or those kinds of companies, all of those deals still have to go through NIL Go and Deloitte. And let's see what Deloitte has to say about that and whether or not those funds are going to have to go against the cap. So there's still some tinkering going on there. I know what people think it's going to be, but let's see once Deloitte actually rules. And even after that, it goes to a third-party arbiter if they disagree. So we'll have to see what all it means.
By the way, Dave actually had something I wanted to comment on here. Diabell has a Gatorade deal after being a Florida Gatorade Player of the Year. Kids in Florida can earn NIL dollars starting senior season. Texas, that was just signed, I believe. Is that finalized, Bobby? I don't know if that's finalized yet.
I think it's before the House or something like that, and it's supposed to start August 1 of a prospect's senior year.
And
so we'll see.
So that's an interesting topic because I was talking to a college basketball coach assistant coach about this the other day. And this is something that's really, I think, meaningful to coming up in high school recruiting in Texas. Twofold is I believe it's going to pass where kids, because if not, kids are just going to start leaving the state. I mean, it's hard to compete with it if you don't adapt. So you can have a kid after his senior season or senior year starts. I think he's going to be able to make NIL money, name, image, and likeness money. Why that's important that it's starting senior year is because you've started your senior year at a school, and that's to keep kids from just being transferring for NIL purposes in high school. because there's another thing that's going to be voted on. It may got voted down, but it's going to come up again, is the one-time transfer rule in Texas high school UIL. That won't go away. People are going to keep fighting for that. What you can't have in the state, which has always done things I think in a great way for high school athletics in general, is you can't have NIL, ability to make NIL, and freedom of transfer at the same time. You need to start your NIL clock. It needs to be after you've enrolled your senior year in high school to keep you from bouncing around to where it becomes truly wild in high school athletics in Texas. That would not be a good thing for the state. You have any thoughts on that, Bobby?
I don't like the one-time transfer rule. And the reason I don't, and regardless of NIL, is I've seen kids who, I mean, let's just put it this way. What if the parents are in a divorce situation, Jerry?
Yeah.
And they have to move from, and we're not talking about well-off families that can, I mean, and they have to move one place for a while in an apartment and then another. I mean, I don't like that. There has to be exceptions, I guess is what I would say, that are proven, issues there. That would be number one. Number two is, what about military families? I mean, that can be an issue. And I'm talking about the guys up in Fort Hood that moved from the Cop Cove school district to Belton that could be real issues, although, we'll see what happens. But I don't like that because I've actually gone to school with kids that had that issue, right? They went from one high school to another because they just had to. So I don't like that. As far as the actual NIL portion of it, I haven't thought deeply enough, Jerry. I do think that there's some parameters that are valuable there. But the last thing I think anybody wants to see is a guy transferring from, I don't know, from DeSoto to Duncanville because Duncanville, the gas station in Duncanville decided to give him a $10,000. I don't know what the answer is there, but there's got to be some
Bobby,
parameters that make sense.
Bobby, there's a certain few schools in this state that may never lose again. I mean, they have real ability, and it's not all just the big schools. There's a couple of small schools that would have unbelievable potential there.
Well,
that'll be interesting.
Blake's kind of close to one of them back in the day in Stephenville. So just saying, a lot of kids moved from very small towns to the big metropolis of Stephenville back in the day.
And Brock now.
But I mean, that happens.
I would throw Carthage in there now these days. All right, for sure.
But now they're not. I mean, they're wanting to go win. I don't.
Yeah,
that's a different.
They have there's somebody. Oh, DF Smalley. While we're on the topic, tell me a little bit more chances with James Johnson. I think we have his huddle up. Do we not, Blake? If we can. Yes,
we can.
Is he just taking all his OVs, or is there Pat the landing? Look, what's going to be interesting on D-line is Texas currently has two commitments in Corey Wells and Dylan Berryman. Dylan Berryman, over the ball guy. Corey Wells, more that guy that's going to develop his body, but is going to be able to play multiple spots. Vodney Cleveland has a decision on deck, and I love James Johnson, by the way. This guy's very explosive, powerful. Very explosive, powerful. And Vodney Cleveland has a decision date coming up on Saturday. And then you have Kendall Gerville and James Johnson coming in. And you also have Damari Simeon out there as well, who has some similarities to James Johnson, just not quite as explosive in turn and run. He's as explosive coming off the ball at times. But Texas they are in actually a really good spot here right now in defensive line recruiting. The question becomes if Vodney Cleveland says yes on Saturday, you have some really talented guys for one or two spots, which is kind of where you want to be. But to answer your question on James Johnson, there's a lot of people who've just said, oh, he's just going through the process. He'll end up at Miami. But just remember, he's from Fort Myers. So it's not like he grew up at Miami Northwestern. He's a Fort Myers guy that transferred to Northwestern in the spring. One source kind of thought Georgia and Texas might be ahead of Miami headed in this week, and we'll see on that. Again, we'll see on that. I think Miami's very much in it. He visited Florida as well. These are big battles. I mean, these are really big battles, and what you want to do is have 3-4 really good players for 1 or 2 spots at the end of the day, and that's where Texas is at on defensive line recruiting. But this guy's explosive.
Jerry, I watched this film and I get taken back to my youth, like 7, 8, 9 years old in the front yard playing football with my friends. He's exactly the kind of guy you don't want chasing you if you have the ball. Because when he hits, he's gonna hurt you. It's like you're gonna. This is the guy that you want to run onto the sidewalk to go out of bounds. Yeah. He's chasing you. He's a big barrel-chested guy. That is one thing that Texas is recruiting through and through right now up front. And I think it's a slight difference, not to call like Alfred Collins is a different kind of dude, but these barrel-chested guys that can anchor against the run and still provide penetration are what Texas is looking for. That's the ideal player in the Pete Kwiatkowski defense, right? And he didn't necessarily have that out of the gate at Texas. Like only Keandre Coburn was really built that way of all those defensive tackles. Even Byron Murphy, who's a first-round pick, wasn't necessarily an anchor type guy in the middle. So he's gotten it done, but I think what we see right now are guys that look more like what Pete Kwiatkowski had at Washington. Those big 320, 340, like a Josiah Sharma and a Myron Charles, Alex January, even to a degree. They're going in the
that's a good point because, Bobby, in the last class in high school, we're going to leave Justice Terry out while he develops, but Myron Charles is 6'4", 325 in high school, 322, 323 when I was by there as senior year. Josiah Sharp, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and my gosh, they list him at 346, and I think he's a little bit bigger than that. He is 6'4" and 360-ish to me. So in this class, that affords Texas, if they want to have a couple of the 6'1", 6'2", barrel-chested, not as tall, not as long guys, and then mix in a couple of the long guys with them in this class. So that class, those 2 high school guys last year really enabled Texas to kind of have a full look at defensive line here and not be worried so much about, what if we take a 6'1" and 6'1.5" guy in this class? As long as they can play, they have power and they can play the run. It's all about playing the run and then finding a disruptor in a class. But I really like where D-line's at for Texas right now. I really do from a recruiting standpoint. And look, I mean, like Tico Crittenden committed to FSU from Lithonia, Georgia earlier this week. I mean, Texas had confidence in the guys they canceled his official visit. And he's a really good football player now. He is really good. He's got a lot of upside. So that's where, Texas has some confidence. And again, they're doing well with Damari Simeon. Now, these guys have visits this week, and he's going to Ohio State. Somebody made a comment about Hezzy Kent. Mm-hmm. He will visit FSU this weekend. Texas, Florida, I think, are battling that one out, and Miami's in it. Look, when I was by Brunswick in May, it was easy to tell how much Hezzy Kent likes Texas. But Florida's giving it a real run, too.
All right, guys, before we get to our next segment, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Omaha Steaks.
Man, that food that you had on there earlier made me think about this. And I'm going to do it again this weekend. But get ready for 4th of July, grilling and chilling. It's the peak of summer. 4th of July coming up, cookouts as a tradition. Handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites. Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience for all of your 4th of July grilling plans or earlier. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. Now, during their 4th of July sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $45 off with promo code ONTEXAS at checkout. There's nothing quite like the all-American feeling of a 4th of July cookout. The convenience of having high-quality Omaha steaks on hand through ordering online is just outstanding. I got the filet, the brisket burgers. I talk about them like they're going out of style because they really are that outstanding. Look, the variety of options they give you there is just terrific. My parents love it as well. I've gotten my dad this gift too. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917, a family-owned company with more than 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. They also carry mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and delicious desserts. Get fired up for the 4th with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale. And for an extra $45 off, use promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. See site for more details, omahasteaks.com.
So we've had Terry Blacks and Omaha Steaks. We can pretty much call this a show and move on.
I'll go to sleep on, and I would go to sleep on the Von Lane on the way back home.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Buck, I want to answer this real quick because I know we got other stuff. Blake, we don't hit on baseball. Got a stud yesterday. What's North Carolina up to in recruiting? Well, I texted Jordan Hudson. She hadn't hit me back, but I think I'll talk for them right now. They're going to sign a top 15-ish type class. They're doing well, but I think if anybody thought they were going to come in, and they've got 2 key D linemen in state. It's a great year for D linemen in state. But I think if anybody thought they were going to come in and have top 5 classes, that's just wasn't going to happen. But no offense, kids don't really care about the whole Bill Belichick thing. That's not, I mean, kids would pick an SEC school over playing for Bill Belichick if they had the top SEC schools after them. But they're doing well. They have to win on D-line in their state this year because there's so many of them, and they have 2 really good ones. They flipped an offensive lineman from Oklahoma yesterday, by the way, an interior offensive lineman, if you want to have some fun in the chat. But they're doing well. I expect them to sign a top 15, top 20 class, which is good for them considering the competition of the top SECs and top Big Tens and USC out there.
All right, Jerry, as you said, baseball did land a stud yesterday.
Woo!
Aiden Robinson, man. I had to double check the stat line like 5 times to make sure this was correct. And I got this tweet ready yesterday morning before he announced, and 438 at the plate. So basically every other time he's getting up there, he has a hit, which is just insane to me. 33 RBI, 16 doubles, 5 home runs. But he's an outfielder. And Texas, I actually said this over on OnTexasFootball.com yesterday, Texas feels like he is the best batter in the portal. So this was a huge, huge win. They fended off LSU. A&M as well was making a run at him. And so, yeah, to pull him yesterday was phenomenal, and he will definitely be making an impact, I'm sure, here relatively soon. And he has 2 years left to play.
Yeah, no doubt. He had a really good freshman year, too. But the thing you like about him, I kind of looked up statistically on him. He made a huge jump from year 1 to year 2. Like he hit like 302, 303 as a freshman, I think. I mean, he made a major jump in year 2. But he is a really good contact player, and he is a very elite. He has very elite hand-eye. I watched a couple of things on him.
I was told that Blake said best hitter in the portal is what I was told. And I think our friend Kendall Rogers over at D1 Baseball said something very similar.
Yeah, they are very high on him. So they were celebrating yesterday. I can tell you that much when they landed this one. And a lot more visitors on campus this week. Can't really get into names, but they are very busy as we've got about 2 weeks left. I think it was 2 weeks as of yesterday left in the portal before it closes. So just keep an eye out. We got more super chats this morning that we need to get to, and I'm going to get to the loin girder. Says everyone's loins are girded, Jerry, at level 11, and they need to be more like a 6 or 7. We lost on KJ Edwards, more in NIL for Crowell. Lost Sam R. More time in NIL to focus on getting Ojo and turn time.
Yeah, so running back is the one position. We've kind of said it earlier in the week. That's the one position that if KJ Edwards went elsewhere, that we'll see what happens with. That's the one that's kind of a little cloudy right now. EJ Crowell, I've been through this one. I think Texas thinks they're in it for EJ Crowell, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Are you going to stay home and play for Alabama, or are you not? At the end of the day, I mean, I think it's going to be competitive from an NIL perspective, and he's going to have to make a decision on where he wants to be and where he sees himself. Now, he visited Auburn. He visited Georgia as well on all SEC recruitment. FSU may get him midweek. I don't know. It's not going to factor in. But it pretty much comes down to where does EJ want to carry the rock at Alabama, growing up in Jackson, Alabama, or does he not? There's a lot of people, and I'm one of those, believe Alabama is the front runner headed into the OV this weekend, but anything can happen. On the offensive line, four guys I think are really in play. Malachi Lee, Ojo, who's visiting Utah this weekend, Turntine will be on campus, and Zayden Crimpin. Zayden Crimpin and Malachi Lee visiting Michigan both this weekend. So Grayson McHugh, we'd said that he was going to cancel his visit. He did commit to Notre Dame. I think he's a tremendous player, by the way. He's not going to be talked about, but that guy's always going to be underrated. Tremendous player. Flood's on the right guys. Now you just got to bring a couple more home here at the end.
Hey, by the way, just going back to baseball for a minute.
Yeah.
If anybody watched the Arkansas LSU game last night.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Oh my goodness. Arkansas, I don't know what else to say. They had a double play ball to end the game. They had a ball bounce off a guy's head. And this is in the ninth inning, by the way. Another blooper, kind of bloop single, won it for LSU that bounced off a guy's glove. I mean, I don't, if there is a snake bitten program in the history of baseball, it is Arkansas. I mean, there is no doubt. This is, one game or 2 games removed from a guy pitching a no-hitter for him.
Yep.
I mean, they literally, guys. Now, it will be LSU won 6-5, walked it off last night after Arkansas just made a parade of just head-shaking type plays on defense. But my point being here is LSU, Coastal Carolina play for the national championship. Coastal Carolina is one of those schools that is kind of making a little name for itself in sports. I'd never even heard. I didn't know Coastal Carolina existed 10 years ago. Did y'all? Until they started playing a little football. They got pretty good.
Yep.
Playing baseball, got pretty good. That's one of those schools I didn't even know existed probably 10, 15 years ago.
I only did because I'm a golf guy, and Dustin Johnson came from there. So that's why I knew that. I mean, it's a party school in Myrtle Beach. Go have fun. But it is a party school now, which Dustin Johnson played golf there. It all makes sense. But yeah, it's Steve Bartman feels sorry for Arkansas baseball at this point. If you need an old Cubs fan reference, that's how bad it's gotten in Arkansas. Hey, I want to answer Jose Rodriguez because we haven't talked about Dia Bell. Dia's doing very well at Elite 11. Now, I'll say this. Elite 11 on air is not my thing. I think the best thing about the event is the part you don't see, and that's those guys in the classroom. Sometimes it's made for TV after that. The best part of Elite 11 isn't the on-air stuff on the field. And somebody says, what does it show us based on anything in recent Elite 11 history? Well, and this is not a knock. It just is what it is. Elite 11, if you have 24 of the top 30 quarterbacks in the country every year that come through, well, there's a lot of those guys that are going to make it to the NFL. So you're going to have a resume, right? But if Bobby and I had a defensive line contest and brought in 24 of the top 30 in America, there's going to be a lot of them go pro. It is what it is. My problem with it is, for instance, I think Malik Murphy once won an on-air accuracy contest, but under duress, he's not an accurate quarterback. So it's not a real show of what you do playing under duress and as a playmaker at the quarterback position, because that's really what all this comes down to. But Dia Bell is doing great. I think he's a great prospect, great feet, works at his craft. He's wired the right way. Obviously, his father, Rajah Bell, he is wired the right way to be a very successful player and athlete. And I'm very high on Dia Bell. The thing on its own, though, I've covered it multiple times. It's not one of my deals because this position is played when Colin Simmons is closing in on you. What do? And that never shows up in an on-air quarterback competition.
We got a super chat here from Tanner Grip. Thank you, Tanner. He says, did y'all see the Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Texas 1 pod? Hill said he was staying 4 years. How possible do you think that is? Also, what's the over-under on Colin Simmons breaking the sack record? I don't see the sack record being broken.
What is the total sack record, by the way? 39, is that right?
Let me look. Y'all answer the first part, and I'll look up the second.
Yeah. Do y'all see the Ant Hill, Colin Simmons, Texas?
Hill said he was staying 4 years, Jerry.
No.
You think he's staying for it?
No.
I don't think he is either. I'll just be blunt. And I'm not trying to call a guy out. It's just, I mean, Jerry, at some level, you as well as I know that, there's going to be money being offered at the NFL level that it's going to be too much.
Look, and the reality is if he's a projected top half of first round draft pick, Sark and those guys will say, thank you. Go live out your dream, man.
Yep. And he should. It's not a situation where those guys will be sitting there in a room with the door closed, trying to get him to stay. Yeah.
They want 3-year guys to go. They're 5-star players to go be 3-year players. The quarterback's different and be successful and go on, just like Kelvin Banks. That's great for the program. And if you're recruiting at a high enough level, then you have really good players coming right in behind them.
My take on it is this too, Jerry. I was watching a show with Josh Jacobs, the former Alabama running back from Tulsa that went to Alabama, and he wasn't even a starter at Alabama. And they told him, you need to go ahead and go.
Yeah.
And the reason was simple. You're going to be a high round draft pick. And what he said was very true. These coaches, as much as they want what's good for their jobs, okay, and having guys stay and all that stuff, they're also former players too. I mean, they know what the idea that you try to keep players for 4 years. I think at one point in my lifetime, it was very magnanimous, and it felt like there was I love my school. I mean, I think of Ricky Williams staying for his 4th year, but he was also had things that he wanted to accomplish in that 4th year that were very specific. All-time rushing record, Heisman Trophy. What are the chances Anthony Hill wins the Heisman Trophy by coming back his 4th year? Very small. Now, maybe he wins a national championship. I could hear that. But my point being, there's a nostalgia there that when faced with a lot of zeros at the end of a paycheck, the nostalgia gets tamped down quite a bit. It's like, and rightfully so. Because look, my kids are going to college, and part of the reason they're going to college is to have a career. Right? What is Anthony Hill going to college for? To have a career.
Yeah.
That's in the NFL.
So sack record for Texas is obviously Kiki, 22.5 sacks. The all-time Division I single season sack record is from 2002. Terrell Suggs at 24 sacks. That's officially recognized as the record, although Derek Thomas in Alabama back in 1988 had 27, but that's unofficial due to the NCAA not tracking sacks until the year 2000.
What's the all-time career record at Texas, though, Blake?
Let me look.
And I want to say this too. Terrell Suggs at Arizona State. This is back when I covered recruiting nationally. I used to have to call him to get his updates. Jerry, you know where I called him? I called him at the Hollywood Video because he was a store clerk at Hollywood.
Nice. That does not exist anymore.
Crazy.
That does not.
His mom said he works till 11 at Hollywood Video.
That does not exist anymore. 40.5 sacks is the career record. Colin's got a chance at that in 3 years, in my opinion.
What is he at? What did he have last year? Briefly, is it 9?
9.5.
I'm looking.
That's okay. It's already. You're busy.
9.5.
9. Yes, 9.
9. So I think he's got an outside shot at 40. if Texas has 2 playoff seasons in a row, because that's the difference.
Extra games.
Yeah. He's got a shot at it.
We got more super chats, fellas. But first, I need you, Jerry, to tell everyone about Ridge Wallet.
I can do that. Bobby Burton has a Ridge Wallet, or Jenny Burton has a Ridge Wallet. I'm not sure where it is, whose hands it's in right now. Look, they're unique, they're slim, they're modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash, made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. There's over 50 colors to choose from. Show your wallet off to the camera if you got it, guys. Show us what you got. That burnt orange one that Blake put up looked really good yesterday. All Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. Does it give you peace of mind knowing that all Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology, keeping you safe from digital pickpocketers? There's over 100,000 5-star reviews. Losing your wallet is absolutely the worst, but there's the Ridge AirTag attachment. You'll always know where it is before the panic mode kicks in. It's not Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create a premium everyday carry essentials like the cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping and a 99-day free risk trial and lifetime warranty for all their products. Don't have that clumpy old wallet that hurts your back if you make a 3-hour drive and it's on the left side. That's never good. George Costanza, that's never good. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off Ridge using that code ONTexas at checkout. Head to ridge.com and use code ONTexas, all caps, and you're all set.
There you go.
There it is. There it is.
It's called Tobacco Brown if you're going to order it from Ridge at ridge.com. So that's the one that you want. They also have a little bit brighter orange, but it's more Oklahoma State orange than Texas.
Hey, by the way, and I don't know if the Reed's coming back, but Blake and I got sent some Mando products yesterday. So hopefully the Mando Reed's coming back. Maybe time for the Grundle bundle again.
Hey, we talked about Elite 11 rankings earlier. I just went back and did a little research on that because people talk about how important is it. Texas actually plays the quarterback that was ranked number 1 in 2024, or excuse me, 2023, Julian Sayin. First game out of the gates at Ohio State. He actually had signed with Alabama and then transferred to Ohio State. But here's my point on a view on this and why Jerry, I think, is accurate when he says it's more about the full game. They ranked DJ Lagway in his year, 2023, the number 9 quarterback.
No chance.
Yeah, no chance. I mean, there's 7 guys that haven't even started ranked ahead of him. Okay, including one at Michigan that they're trying to they don't want to play. I mean, they're my point is, 2022, Jackson Arnold was the 2nd ranked quarterback in a group, and I'm not, and that's not a negative on Jackson Arnold. He's just not that category. I think they're guys that look good on air, and this can be good and bad for Diabell. I want to say that. So my point is, you have to take all of these on-air competitions in context. I mean, they can definitely tell you who has the best arm. They can definitely tell you who's the most accurate when things are easy.
Yes.
You can't replicate accuracy in game as it relates to non-timed throws. Timed throws, let's go roll out and throw right. Yeah, that can be replicated. You're not going to have many people in your face doing that.
Right.
In the pocket, moving. I mean, you just can't replicate it. And so that's the difference. We'll see where it all comes out. And we're definitely wishing Dia the best, though. Because it does maybe perhaps, Jerry, include some NIL value for whoever wins it.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, so there's some intrinsic value that maybe he can get more of that and leave more of the cap space for some of his teammates. So rooting for him for that.
Okay, more super chats this morning, fellas. This one from Mike. Mike's going to make us jealous because he says, "Good morning, gents, from sunny Key West, Florida. Recruiting isn't for the faint of heart, and we have to gird our loins. But how confident are you that Texas finishes with a top 5 class in 2026?
I remain confident because look, a lot of this comes down to how many players you sign nowadays, and how those rankings are tabulated. But I'm very confident at the end of the day that Texas, assuming they sign enough players, will have another top 5 class. If you look right now, I mean, like USC has 29 commitments, right? So they don't have a lot of runway left. Now they may cut some guys loose if they get a couple other guys in this class, but they're at 29 commitments. A lot of people like Georgia's at 17, Notre Dame's 17, A&M 17, Ohio State's 15, Clemson, who's an early team's 18, Penn State, James Franklin's early, he's at 20. Those are your top 7-ish ranked classes right now. There's a lot of runway left for people that, Miami's got 13, LSU's got 10, Texas has 13, and though 3 of those are specialists, Florida has 13. So some of those schools that are right in that area code have a lot of runway left in their class. And that's the one thing I look at with the early class rankings is, one, it's how big a class do you sign and how much runway do you have left. So that's the thing I look at. If Texas has 13 guys right now, and they end up with a class of, say, 26 with 3 of those specialists, or 27 with 3 of those specialists, the guys that are left on the board plus senior recruiting, remember, Justice Terry wasn't a target. It wasn't a possibility. Grayson Littleton wasn't a possibility. Zealous Hicks was a 2026 at the time. This time last year wasn't a possibility. Those 3 guys impacted your class ranking at the end of the day, especially Justice Terry. So I really like Texas' chances, assuming they sign enough guys to be a top 5 class for another year.
And then we have a super chat this morning from Jason. Thank you, Jason. And he says, with our current running back room, wouldn't it make more sense to maybe not invest in running back, but spend more on elite offensive linemen?
No. Look, and I say no with all due respect to everybody out there. I think that you have to have. I mean, what happens if Trey Weisner goes down last year in the middle of that season? I mean, Texas is I think you just have to have depth across the board, especially if you're going to play 16 games, Jason. And I believe that numbers on the offensive line are more durable. For example, it was one thing when Texas only had 9 offensive linemen back when Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian just it just came to Austin. Now that they have 17 or 18 in the program, it's a little different, and you can run through running backs really quickly. A little bit harder to run through that many offensive line. So I think it's about depth and quality depth. And I will say this too. I mean, Jarrett Gibson needs to prove it to me right now. I mean, he and Christian Clark. Clark didn't have much of a chance, but Gibson did not leave me with a lot of. I want to say this the right way. He didn't engender trust in what he performed in the way he performed last year, that he would eventually be a go-to guy for Texas. He fumbled. Everybody knows that. But also, he didn't necessarily see the hole great, in my opinion. And so I think Texas needs a big-time running back. I think guy touches the ball, 20, 30 times a game, whether it's through the run or the pass, very, very valuable. So twofold there. I think you can get more offensive linemen to fill needs, to backfill now. Running back can take precedent.
Yeah, so I'm going to address something. So we've had people have commented or asked about CJ Baxter. I want to be clear on this. He's in the next progression of his work coming back from his knee injury. But there's a difference, just for people. If Texas played a football game tomorrow, he's not playing. If Texas had padded football practice tomorrow, he's not getting hit on his knee. He's at the next point of his progression in his recovery, and that's being more involved in the workouts. But and I'm not saying he's not going to be ready, but I'm also not going to word salad this crap. If Texas played Ohio State tomorrow, he's not taking hits and in pads. So there's a difference. All right, let's move on.
All right. Let's talk about wide receivers for a moment. How about that? Brendan says, is there a real chance DeAndre Moore will be more impactful than Wingo?
Absolutely, there's a chance. Absolutely, there's a chance. Doesn't mean that it will be the case, but there's a chance.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Moore is the unquestioned slot guy, whereas Wingo at least has Emmett Mosley to deal with a little bit, but Moore is light years ahead of Dalen McCutcheon, with all due respect, and or Ryan Niblett, and or Aaron Butler. So there's absolutely, and he and Arch seemed to get along pretty well last year too. And what little, well, Arch got along with both Wingo and DeAndre. But my point being for that is I could absolutely see him come down with 65 catches next year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
easily. And now maybe Wingo has 55, but has, more yardage. So how do you define impact? Moore could be your third down guy along with injuries. Maybe, so the thing with Wingo that I went back and watched some of his stuff. I guess it was on Sunday afternoon. I was waiting to do the live stream that night. And I was watching some stuff because Wingo had the party the deal in St. Louis. As y'all know, this past weekend, he had a camp up in St. Louis where Arch and Nick Brooks and Aaron Butler and those guys went up there and hung out with him for a while. He makes people miss a little bit more than you remember for such a big receiver. There's a couple of plays where he literally makes guys miss, and Ryan Wingo's a big dude and can really run. I am intrigued what his offseason eye surgery will do. Like one of the things that I saw him struggle with, and struggle is a light word, against Georgia, for example. They threw a couple of 50-50 balls for Ryan Wingo against Georgia. He looked like he mistimed his jump a little bit, and I'm wondering if that had to do with his eye problem.
Yeah.
And so if that is actually fixed and it actually goes into effect, you could be looking at a better 50-50 ball winner from Ryan Wingo. And then all bets are off, because I do think, I told y'all this, I think he's the best receiver prospect. And I said it immediately when I saw him, that Texas has signed since Roy Williams.
I agree with that.
He's a complete thoroughbred looking guy.
And that, Bobby, the ice issue is a big one, because think about the difference in high, and it doesn't show up in high school. It shows up in college, because very few guys play with a quarterback that if you run a comeback and you get out of that break and that ball's there on you, you don't see that in high school like an NFL arm in college. That ball doesn't get on you as fast. You have time to get your head around, kind of get comfortable, get the arms out at your own pace, and make a play on the ball. College is totally different. That ball is on you fast. Or in the 50-50 balls, you have to time it with your jump and your body control and a lot going on in your peripheral. But it doesn't always show up in high school, but it shows up in college because of the arm talent that is throwing you the football. You don't have as much adjustment time.
And it's downfield.
Yeah.
So you have more depth perception to deal with the balls downfield. So we'll see. I think it could be more easily in that category, being more impactful. For some reason, why do I get the sense that it's going to be somewhat equitable between all receivers this year? Do you like not just Wingo and Moore, but also Mosley and injuries? Even the running backs. I think it's just maybe it's Arch and the fact that he can make all the throws makes you think it's going to be equitable. Like with Quinn, you knew he's going to throw a lot of short, quick passes, and that favored certain players. And he liked to check down to the running backs a lot. with Arch, I think it's going to be more equitable. We'll see.
We're going to talk some more wide receivers here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, if you would let everyone know about Vaughn Lane one last time.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate the guys at Vaughn Lane in their sponsorship of On Texas Football. If you're tired of the hassle of flying or driving in Texas, driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10, it's stressful. Airport, long lines, security stress, cramped seats, just getting to your destination feels exhausting. Next time you need to travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, skip the stress and ride with Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. Arrive just minutes before your departure at one of Vaughn Lane's centrally located luxurious hotel partners. Settle into your spacious reclining seat with tons of legroom and personal space. Enjoy complimentary snacks, drinks, Wi-Fi, and even meals on select departures, all while you sit back and relax. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit vaughnlane.com and use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, first class travel without the hassle. Make sure you use it this coming year for football games. I will say this. You don't realize how much time you get to the airport ahead of time, whereas with Vaughn Lane, you literally can arrive 15 minutes before the bus leaves. I mean, you're talking about potentially saving yourself just an hour and a half, 2 hours on that part of the trip alone. Both ways. Because coming back, you have to arrive at the airport early.
More wide receiver questions, fellas. And going back to what you were talking about just a moment ago, Bobby, Joshua wants to know, well, Arch likes the deep ball, so who's going to be getting those targets?
I think Wingo's the guy, man. I mean, now Mosley is a good 50-50 ball winner from what I've seen. Moore can run some slot fades.
He gets behind people.
Yeah, he's kind of a sneaky guy, but Wingo can just flat out run. And if he gets better at a 50-50 downfield ball guy, because of, like I mentioned, then I think it's Wingo. Wingo and Livingstone. Livingstone is sneaky like that too, Jerry. I mean, he's more of a downfield guy because he's got that body frame, and long arms.
I think Moore's the best double move receiver.
Ooh, probably so.
I think that's why he gets behind guys. It's not, and he's fast, but I think he's a really good double move receiver.
He does some subtle things. He's a subtle mover. He's not going to. That's a good point, Jerry.
But again, I think the thing about it is there's multiple guys in that regard. That's a good place to be. I mean, I keep going back, and Texas has two receivers coming back that started in the college football playoff. Them and Ohio State can say that. I don't know if anybody else can say that. That's a good place to be, especially if you see these guys are in year two, essentially. DeAndre Moorhead is in year three technically, but on field experience. These guys are headed into year two. Livingstone off a red shirt, you'll see where he mixes in and which of the freshmen really come in and throughout games 2, 3, 4, I think start to kind of factor into the rotation and how that rotation is going to find its way. And Emmett Mosley, obviously, I think is a starter level player.
And talking about Mosley, Tennessee Longhorn wants to know, do y'all think that he could be more impactful than both Wingo and Moore?
He could get favorable matchups. If Wingo draws best, if the corners travel and Wingo draws best corner and Moore is your slot, then Mosley works against corner two. Mosley could have pretty good he could have some favorable matchups in that situation, depending on your opponent. When you go to 4 wide set, your 4 wide your 4th wide, depending on where Sark aligns everything, definitely could have favorable matchup. And that's where depth comes in, depth of talent.
And then another wide receiver question, talking about the freshman from March Mania. Do you have any word on how Lockett and French are progressing so far?
My biggest thing with the progression with Lockett is he's bigger. Like seeing him a couple of weeks ago, he looks like he's gained 10, 12 pounds. I mean, I guess. I mean, depending on when these guys weigh themselves, but he's bigger than he was a senior in high school. But he was a young senior age-wise. he was going to be a later developer. He had that long, very wiry frame with those 11-inch hands. He just looked young when you saw him. But he's considerably bigger, and it's going to show up in his lower body, I think, before upper body. His upper body's slightly bigger. I saw a big difference in his lower body physically, and I think that's a big thing with him, along with learning nuances and getting accustomed for Lockett catching the ball from high-level arm talent, because at Saxe, that was the one thing they didn't really have, especially his senior year. And they weren't bad, but they didn't have D1 arm talent out there, quarterback. So he's getting accustomed to that reactionary time, getting out of your breaks and getting your head around, getting your hands up, getting in position to be a really good wide receiver, progressing through the route. I think with Jamie French, he's getting bigger. I mean, he was a little bigger than Lockett was coming out of high school. I think both those guys. I've told again a couple of weeks ago, Texas is very happy with their freshman wide receivers. They like all those guys. And take Michael Terry out of that because he's way more in the developmental stage, learning the position. But the three guys who were wide receivers for sure out of high school coming in, they like all three of them. Very happy with those guys.
And then one other receiver question, guys, before we get to our last super chat of the day. A lot of people asking about Parker Livingston, such as John here. He wants to know, do you think Livingston could be the number 4 receiver?
Yes. Livingstone, by the way. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll say this. He had a strong spring. He made the most of his opportunity. Now he's coming into August. His job now is to hold off the freshmen as they got through a spring practice. For all these guys, and we talked about it with, different. Jonte Cook had stuff off the field, but we talked about this when DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook, they had great opportunities in that spring. Remember, Matthew Golden wasn't a starter in the spring after he transferred. He had the toe issue. Silas Bolden wasn't there. Bond was a starter, right? And then Wingo coming as a freshman. But we talked about it with Moore and Jonte Cook. They had to have strong springs to set themselves up to hold off the competition behind them. Moore did it. Cook didn't. So now Livingstone's in the same position those two guys were when there's a lot of talent coming in behind you. Now, after he had a good spring, now you got to hold those guys off at the start of the season and early in the season. And that's a great thing. It's great competition and really good players. But that's what's in front of Livingstone. Now, first test, he passed the spring. This second task for him, and I think he's in the rotation, but people ask him specifically about number 4. And I think at Ohio State, for sure, you're a number 4 receiver. But then you get into the other parts of the season where other guys are going to get more reps, and you got to hold those guys off.
I think it's well said, Jerry. Because, look, you are what you make yourself when you have this level of talent very often. And it just goes back to we were talking about DeAndre Moore so much. And you and I have kept up with this. We always have. And it's the same in high school as it is in college. Who comes out to practice the first? Who practices hard? Now, in college, a lot of guys practice hard. In high school, not many guys practice hard. No offense. But that's what separated DeAndre Moore. And I can tell you that from what we saw of Parker Livingstone in the spring, he fit that mold of he was out there practicing with a purpose. So it's going to Jamie French and Khalil Lockett and Michael Terry, they may have more talent than Parker Livingstone. Doesn't mean they're going to be better players, because Parker Livingstone, I got the feeling just personally that he's going to maximize his opportunity. We'll see, though. That's why they have practice.
Before we get to our last super, I do want to read this from Spanish Steve. He's been very active in the chat today. He says, "Hey, guys, love the content. My birthday is tomorrow, but I won't be on since I'm flying down to Texas to visit family. Hook 'em from Missouri, and happy early birthday to you, Spanish Steve. Thanks for tuning in."
Happy birthday, Steve. Good luck. Be safe.
Okay, you get this one. I got one from Living Rent Free. I think we need to address.
Rich Money Cash 1 with the super chat says, "Will there be a 2027 quarterback commit soon? Seems like Sark usually has them by June."
This is the first time that Texas hasn't had their guy in the boat in early mid-June. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. It wouldn't shock me if it played out a little bit longer. But things can change. It wouldn't shock me if things played out a little longer. We'll see.
We think that the two primaries right now in that category are the kid from Palestine, Kavion Bryant, Palestine Westwood, right? And Peyton Houston out of Freeport. And then Gunnar Rivers is kind of a tertiary. We don't know if he's really involved with Texas at this point. Those are the three. Is Bryant the one that kind of surprised us a little? And not after watching this film, it doesn't really surprise you. But the one that I thought surprised us a little was Kavion Bryant being offered. Okay. He's also a big time basketball player. You've talked about this. Could be a D1 basketball player if he wanted to go that route.
Definitely.
Yeah. So does his basketball foray make it the quarterback situation murkier as a whole in 2027?
No, because he's going to be football focused. I had a long conversation with somebody close to him around at the Texas Elite Camp a couple of weeks ago, and he wants to be a quarterback at the college level, and he's leaning that direction. So I think that is why Texas offered him, first of all, because I think if he'd come in there and say, I want to play both, I don't think that offer happens. Because that's a tough pull nowadays, especially if you're on a really good college basketball team. You're going to miss part of spring. Yeah. And that's a tough place to be and now for a college football coach, especially Steve Sarkisian. So I think he's going to be football focused. Now, his cousin is KJ Edwards. Although those families grew up together in Carthage. So will that come into play at all now? We'll see. But I think Gunnar Rivers is also very much in the picture. It won't shock me. It won't shock me if it doesn't play out a little bit here with 27 quarterback. So the question up here from Living Rent Free, yes, Living Rent Free. I think this is a great question, Bobby. I still think we're going to get to the point where we're going to have a late June, early July signing period. I think there's going to be some people. I think there's going to be some people that are pushing for this more so. So I do think you're going to see. It depends on the loopholes in NIL or in the house settlement agreement,
if there are any.
Yes, and right now people definitely think there are.
Yeah,
we'll see if that ends up being the case. But I do think we're going to see more early decisions because I will still maintain we're going to end up with a late June, early July signing period in the future. It's the only thing that really makes sense. If you're going to be doing. If official visits are going to start in April and you have no head coach in-home visits anymore, and now in-home visits are in the spring with assistants, the head coach can go meet with a kid in January. I mean, the process is getting so accelerated, and 80% of Texas classes are coming in January anyways. I think we're going to have the two signing periods are going to change. I think there's going to be the ability, and there may not be a signing date anymore at the end of this, Bobby. It may be just like, hey, you get your NIL done, you want to sign, you sign, and it's over. We may get to that point one day, but I do think we're going to see a late June, early July signing period in the future.
Here's what I would say to that about as it relates to locking up your NIL deals at that time. Maybe. But if I'm Brandon Harris, for example, the Texas GM, or name a GM, don't you want to save some dollars for the portal? Because that, as much as we like to talk about high school recruiting, and it is how you build a championship team. There's no doubt that high school recruiting is how you build the championship team. We all know that important pieces are taken out of the portal each and every year.
Yes.
And so, okay, how are you dealing with the portal then? If you spend all that money on NIL early, what do you have left for the portal late? If there are no loopholes. So I don't know is the answer. That's the real answer. I think that I think a December signing period is fine. I also think that allows for more freedom of assistant coaches that move. So like you can say what you want, but a lot of players pick schools because of assistant coaches, not because of the head coach. And assistant coaches move much more freely than head coaches. Yet there's no rule that allows players to change their signing if a assistant coach moves. And most of the assistant coaches, by the way, move in January or March or late February. So what if your signing day is early December, which is what it is now? That's then 2 weeks later, your defensive line coach, Bo Davis did it. Not just at Texas, he did it at LSU. I mean, he was signing guys at LSU, and then a week later, he took the Saints D-line job. That's a fair question, I think. I really do. I don't know.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by Vaughn Lane. We want to thank them along with Omaha Steaks and, of course, Ridge Wallet for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in as well. Don't forget, we can't be on here all the time, so head on over to ontexasfootball.com. If you're not a member, let me save you a little money when you sign up. Use promo code OTFOG. And right now, Bobby's got a great special running, $39.95 for a full year. And again, only if you use promo code OTFOG. That's for new subscribers only. So come check us out at ontexasfootball.com. And of course, Bobby, what do you have later today right here on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, absolutely. Bob Shipley, Rod Babers, and CJ Vogel are on the winning drive this afternoon. We also have football theory coming up. And then we have all this news. Jerry literally just mentioned earlier in this show, a couple guys not coming in this weekend, previously expected. And you can check that out on texasfootball.com. We got all the news and notes around recruiting, covering that at length. And then also, I would say, Jerry's going up to Austin, I think tonight, getting ready for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Weekend for the Longhorns in recruiting.
It's a big weekend. By the way, Jason Hornlife said, any golfers out there? There's a lot of golfers on this chat. By the way, for those that haven't, there's a guy that was on the Golf Channel. It's a 0.6 handicap. He went out and played Oakmont, I think Monday, and he shot 93 from the pro, same setup as Sunday with no fans. So that's 100 with about 15,000 people there. For people wondering how difficult that course is and that's not even the average golfer. That's a 0.6 handicap. He would have shot 100 if there were 15,000 people out there.
So I would be going for 150 is what you're saying, 125?
I can just tell you, when I used to live in Jupiter, I'd go to Abaco as a public driving range, and I'd go out there like 4 days a week. And the guys that were on the Corn Ferry Tour that had no chance to make the PGA Tour go shoot 63, no chance to make the tour. It's crazy. That it may be the most difficult sport to be great at.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow morning. We got a couple of special guests tomorrow, too, so you won't want to miss tomorrow's show. So be sure to tune into that. And we'll, of course, see you then. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you next time.